We got 1 minute, 19 seconds. Okay, so what do I think? Yeah, I watched that. Dude, I must admit, the graphics and the immersion was stunning, and every single interaction was mocapped for, and then all the voice, not a single voice actor was like taking me out of my. I was immersed. I was immersed, ultra immersed. Now, what did it look like? It was some next generation game. It's like completely reinventing the wheel or doing something completely. No, it kind of just looked like Cyberpunk. It looked like Cyberpunk, like a really polished Cyberpunk, but like, you know, real life, just not in the future. It kind of just looked like Cyberpunk. Yeah, and I really enjoyed Cyberpunk, so I don't know. But I nothing in that trailer really made me go, holy shit, this is going to change my life. It's more like, that's going to be a fun story to go through in a cool world. Like all like the little random shit, like all the car races, the motorcycle things. I mean, there's going to be like a million little side quests. Hopefully it's not bugged out. Hopefully it's fun. Combat seemed clean. Like the you know, one tap, someone in the head, they actually just die. It's not like they're bullet sponges or anything. You know, I was caught off guard by them just killing everyone indiscriminately. That was kind of crazy. But other than that, look good.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers, Game Director on Path of Exile 2, and today I'm excited to show off our new class, the Duelist, which will be available in the 1.0 release on December the 11th. But for those of you who just can't wait until 1.0 later this year, after showing the Duelist, we'll also be showing off a new event based on the Ritual League called the Forbidden Rites, which will be releasing next week along with the 055 update.
Bro, what the fuck?
And after all that, a Q&A with Ziggy D to answer your questions from Twitch chat. But not only that, afterwards we'll be going straight to the final qualifier for the PoE2 races, the winner of which will be going to ExileCon in November to compete in the finals. But first, the Duelist. Now the Duelist comes with a new weapon type that it's kind of crazy we didn't have. Swords. And with each new weapon type, we want to make sure that the playstyle feels different to all the others. So what defines combat with a sword? To us, it's that feeling of flow, from attack to attack, and from stance to stance. And what better place to demonstrate the Duelist's abilities than the ruins of the Grand Arena? The corpses of the dead continue to fight endlessly as the arena collapses around them, and should you get to the center, you'll be able to face Thrax, their champion.
Oh shit.
The first mechanic we need to talk about is Ready Stance. After using some Duelist skills, you can keep holding the button to ready your blades for your next strike. Normally, your basic sword slash would look like this, but in Ready Stance it turns into a deadly AoE slash instead. Your Ready Stance also has the ability to be upgraded. This is Sand Scour, another Ready Stance attack, and if you stun enemies with it, you'll enter Sand Stance, and using this with your default attack will send out a Sand Disc.
Also, auto changes.
But default attack isn't the only ability that can be modified by your stance, like Perforate for example. This skill is a triple stab, where the third strike sends out drills, bleeding your enemies. But from Ready Stance, you can skip right to the drills. If you use it from Sand Stance though, it will send out a bunch of mini sand discs from every enemy it hits. Perfect for large packs. Together, these basic abilities give a very unique feel to sword combat. It's quite different than any other class we've made, flowing from ability to ability. There's also some abilities that you can use while in Ready Stance, without breaking
I'm hoping you just get
A good example are War Cries, like this one, Intimidate.
Time to die!
Use it to deliver a cutting insult to your foe, intimidating them and causing your next attack to knock them off balance. Another great ability you can use already is Rending Dash. This movement skill slices through monsters, but since you stay in Ready Stance, it allows you to reposition to the perfect angle to strike.
That looks so big!
So far, we've been using Sand Stance to tackle these enemies. But what about Blood Stance? For that, we'll need to switch from two-hand to dual wield.
Oh. Ooh.
Now with swords, we wanted to make sure that the different options of one-hand, two-hand, or dual wield each have their own interesting playstyle. So unlike other weapon types, dual-wielding swords gives you the ability to parry attacks. Follow up with Bloodied Blade to enter Blood Stance. When using this one with default attack, you'll create a deadly blood wave, causing your enemies to bleed. And of course, Blood Stance will also work with other skills that benefit from stances. So use it with Perforate, for example, and you'll get a bunch of mini blood novas. Once your enemies are bleeding, you might want to try out Hemorrhage. This skill creates deadly blood slashes that drastically speed up the bleeding on your enemies. And once the enemies have built up enough blood loss, slice through them with a Rending Dash to consume all the blood loss for a Giga Bleed.
Giga Bleed!
Now, one skill we couldn't have made the Duelist without is Cyclone. It's an absolute fan favorite, and just like before, when using it, you can spin to win. But this class is all about using stances, so how about we try it with one of those? Use Cyclone from Sand Stance, and you'll be spewing sand discs at your enemies left and right. Great for AoE clear. Now, Parry also had a significant upgrade compared to before, and it's a lot more reliable now. But there's also another way to parry monsters that doesn't require waiting for them to attack you.
Huh?
By switching to a shield, you can now bash enemies straight out of ready stance to parry them without waiting for an attack.
Oh, what the fuck? That seems OP.
During the arena's heyday, challengers would first have to face deadly beasts to test their mettle, so why should it be any different now? Before you can face Thrax, you will need to defeat these dangerous adversaries to prove your worth.
Bruh. It's getting fucked up, man. Chat, this is campaign leveling with leveling gear. On like the worst the skills are ever gonna be.
Another trick the Duelist has up his sleeves are buried blades. Earthrend creates blades that slice through the ground towards your enemies, and once in the ground, these blades have a few uses. The first one of these can be done using Charge Slash. The basic version is a simple lightning-infused cleave, but do it from ready stance, and it changes into a deadly spin, sending out lightning projectiles. But Charge Slash can also be used with the buried blades. Hitting them will turn them into mini Tesla coils, dealing lightning damage to nearby enemies.
Ooh. Oh, I kind of like that.
It seems here we have a warrior who
OP.
refused to die. I'm sure we could put his equipment to better use.
Just a petty thief.
Quiet. I've no guilt in this.
Yo, it's gonna suck. He's taking his loot from
You could also switch to a two-hander to plunge your blade into the ground, sending out a set of 3 blades that explode. But if you use Earthrend first, then you can get even more blades, and the blade plunge will make all of them explode. If you want an even greater field of blades, using ready stance with Earthrend has an interesting effect. Instead of creating one blade, it makes an entire wall of them. You can also hold the blade plunge skill to charge up the swords even further before they explode. Ooh, watch out for those chimeras. So for maximum damage, use ready stance into Earthrend, charge them up with Charge Slash, and do a held blade plunge for a massive explosion. But that's not all. Blood and Sand work with the blade plunge too, to empower all your buried blades. Use it with sand to generate continuous sandstorms around all your blades. And this can be a devastating combo to blend bosses. Or use it with blood to create blood pools around each blade. Cycloning through the blood pools will add blood to your cyclone, so that can be a fun option.
What?
But while we're talking about that, Cyclone counts as a storm, so it can pick up other elemental ground effects too. Blade Conduit will summon a bolt of lightning to your blade and create shocking ground, and cycloning through it will add lightning to your cyclone.
It's gonna be Barrack's ring.
Combine it with the blood to get both effects. And of course, it's possible to get blood,
lightning,
sand, ice, fire, and lightning all at the same time on your cyclone. You guys will have to work out a good build for that yourselves. Already you can see from just the tools I've shown you, this class has a lot of interesting combinations of abilities. With even just a few skills, there are a huge number of options you can do in combat. Now before we get to the boss fight of this area, there's just one more skill I'd like to show you. World Cutter. Charge it up and unleash the ultimate slash. But that's not all. Like so many of the Duelist abilities, it can be further enhanced with Blood Stance, or Sand Stance too. Alright, so those are just a few of the tools the Duelist has at his disposal.
I don't know.
So let's use them
if
to
it
face
just
the
one-shot
true
the boss,
threat,
I guess.
Thrax,
If you can do it whenever they
champion
get
of the
stunned,
arena.
right? When they get stunned, you do a giant world cutter. Boom!
Little one.
It's the boss, eh? It's the ball dude. I like that back and forth mechanic. It's fun. Swing it at. aiming those swords into the ground, like, doesn't look that good. Oh, there we go. Oh, what the fuck's that damage though, bro? Of course, like, if you're ranged, that just does nothing, right? Can we just appreciate how fucking anti-melee this boss is for a second? How did that hit him? What the fuck?
Alright, so that's a taste of what we have in store for the Duelist. It's my favorite class I've ever worked on, and provides a really dynamic combat experience that's just quite unlike any other ARPG. But we also wanted to show what kind of possibilities there are for the Duelist in the endgame. To do that, I'll hand things over to Mark.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, Game Director on Path of Exile. Today, we're going to go through 2 endgame builds that we've put together for the Duelist made by our developers. Our first build is called the Bringer of Blades, a mighty name once feared in the arena. This build is all about rising buried blades from beneath the ground. Some say each sword created by this build is from a foe slain in battle in the gladiator arena, and from the afterlife, they offer their sword back to you in respect. The bread and butter of this build uses Earthrend, supported by the lineage support Calm's Madness, to maximize the efficiency of creating buried blades. It combines that with the Blade Conduit skill, to charge up all the blades with lightning. You can also use the Astral Projector support on it to be able to do so from ranged, if you want to minimize risk and play shock round underneath your enemies.
Range cucks.
We also have Earthrend supported by Electrocute, so that we can keep the enemy's crowd control.
You're the fucking spellcaster, bro.
Then, it's just simple. Spam Earthrend, occasionally using Blade Conduit to refresh the charged lightning on all the blades. For stronger enemies, or larger packs, we want to be able to get sand stuns. The best way to do that while clearing is using Combat Frenzy. Simple. Now you're generating frenzy charges. With those, we can use Sand Scour to enter sand stuns. And from sand stuns, use Blade Plunge to cause sand discs to appear on all of our many buried blades, covering the screen in storms of sand. Of course, you want to use eroding sands too, because as the sand discs are doing many small hits, you want to make sure enemies have as little armor as possible for maximum damage.
Yep.
Alongside that, since we're doing lightning damage, we're also going to throw in the new support Sandstorm, which causes our sand discs to become infused with lightning. The other tool we're using is this support, which causes all your buried blades to add miniature auras that give you damage.
Guys.
To double down on that further, we have this new passive skill Notable, which also causes your buried blades to make you angry, causing you to generate rage on hit while near them. With those, we want even more buried blades. So, let's take it to the extreme. And for that, we have this skill, Rain of Steel, which allows you to call down a whole ruckus of swords, covering the entire battlefield in buried blades.
Go ruckus mode, baby.
It's pretty obvious what to do next. Just use the existing combos, and the entire screen becomes surging with lightning as sand discs run wild. There's more coming even still. Alongside the Duelist, we've made a whole bunch of new epic swords. I mean, just look at them all. This build in particular uses this sword, which causes all your buried blades to be enhanced by Karui magic and become ancestrally boosted.
The fuck?
Then, take these new passive skill notables, specifically for boosted attacks, to improve your efficiency even further. There's a few new ways to boost attacks with the Duelist, and we're excited for you to discover and integrate them into your builds. With all that combined, look at this actual mayhem.
Yeah, chat, they don't give a fuck. Basically, they want one to do well.
Now, We tried to not use unique items on this build, as we wanted to show its potential with just standard gear and skills. But this next one is a different story. Let's move on to our second build.
The game's gonna be so OP.
Here we have the Scourge Walker. For this build, we wanted to do Cyclone with a twist. For that, we're going to use some uniques, starting with a new sword being introduced alongside the Duelist, Oro's Sacrifice.
Ooh.
This sword grants a ton of fire damage, at the expense of your physical damage, and grants a new skill called Infernal Step. Infernal Step itself is pretty fun, and pretty epic. Use it as you flicker around, burning enemies as you strike them. Be wary though, there are both upsides and downsides to using this skill consecutively. Each use gains you a stack of Sacrificial Flame. While this isn't inherently a downside, using Infernal Step while you have Sacrificial Flame causes you to take fire damage, and the more you have, the more you take. So you want to make sure you mitigate as much fire damage taken as possible. In order to do this, we're using even more uniques. Like these, which have received some changes. Molten Tenet and Zoph's Blood. Then we've just gone and used good armor gear in our core armor slots to stack up as much defense as possible.
I want to read this.
So, what about damage? We're doing a few things here that are pretty out there. Given we're using Oro's Sacrifice, we're dealing purely fire damage. However, we still need to be able to bleed for some huge DPS you'll see soon. To do that, we're using this unique ring, Blistering Bond. This allows our fire damage to scale bleeding, instead of physical damage. Our last unique is Beric's Respite. As said originally, we want a Cyclone, which is a wind skill, and can benefit from elemental ground surfaces. Now, our Cyclone is a fiery vortex.
That's what this is.
One last thing to note before showcasing our Scourge Walker in action is that Oro's Sacrifice also grants you frenzy charges while at maximum Sacrificial Flame. This will allow us to fold Bloodied Blade into our rotation between Cyclone sessions to get Blood Enhanced Cyclone. Alright, now you can see our basic rotation. First, we use Infernal Step a few times. Then, once we have a frenzy charge, we use Bloodied Blade. This puts us in Blood stance. And then it's simple. Cyclone away. As you can see, we have the perfect harmony of demonic powers. Blood and fire fill the screen. Honestly though, we need to add some horror and flesh to the build to really embrace the fantasy. For that, let's use this new support gem, which we will put on our Cyclone. Given we're already bleeding, this can cause enemies to shed chunks of flesh when hit, which explode after a short delay. Check out this ruckus.
Of flesh?
Oh, and while we're at it, let's add even more fire by using the Fan the Flame support. At this point, you can already see how much this is getting out of control. I love it. You may notice we have an excess of frenzy charges. So, you want to throw on Echoing Strikes, which consumes all your frenzy charges to cause our next Cyclone to create a bunch of Cyclones.
Bro, that's the fucking
Feel free to add
character.
Infernal Cry to the mix, cause why not? Okay, well it's already pretty damn strong,
That's the monk.
but we can push it further. What about
the bell
single
guy?
target? For that, we're going to make use of our second weapon set, and use a one-hand sword and Targe, which grants parry. However, instead of using a regular Targe, we're going to use this Runeforged Targe, which grants us a special version of parry that maintains its stances when used. So if you are in Blood stance and use it, you will remain in Blood stance afterwards. This includes while using the dashing parry that Jonathan mentioned earlier. We are going to want our parry debuff duration to be as long as possible, so we can spend more time spinning. To get that, we're using another new sword base type. This one adds base duration to parry. We've also then invested into as much parry duration in this weapon set as possible on new passives on the tree. Now, we can make this even better by using a new support that allows our parry to apply Armor Break.
Oh my god.
And to get it to benefit from our fire damage, we will anoint the Molten One's gift on our amulet. Now, our Armor Break causes enemies to take extra fire damage. So now, we just get into Blood stance using Bloodied Blade, use parry, which dashes in, keeping us in Blood stance, Then, we cyclone our way to glory. Don't forget to also use echoing strikes once you get enough frenzy charges. I mean, just look at this damage. You may have noticed we didn't show any Ascendancy classes. That's right, these builds weren't even Ascended, so their build potential goes so much higher.
Dude.
And the Ascendancies are pretty epic. Here's some art to tease them. But to find out more about that, you'll have to check them out when we show them at ExileCon later this year. We hope you enjoyed our Duelist demonstration. We're really excited to have you get your hands on it and start slicing and dicing throughout Rayclast. Now, Path of Exile 2's full 1.0 launch is later this year on December 11th. But if you just can't wait till then, next week we are doing our 055 update, and it includes a bunch of changes as well as a new event. Given that, it's finally time to talk about Forbidden Rites, a new event based on the Ritual League that will be starting with our 055 patch next week. But that's not all. We also have a massive overhaul to the Trial of Chaos, some new in-game Abyss content, and more. So, let's dive straight into it. The King in the Mists and his cultists, left unchecked, have spread their influence. By his will, the Nameless have been performing gruesome rituals throughout Rayclast, all the way from the forests of Ogum to the deserts of the Maraketh, and even Exile and the Karui Islands, afflicting everything around them with a foreboding darkness. As you can see, they've been quite successful in their efforts, and if not stopped soon, who knows what will become of Rayclast.
Swords is gonna be December, bro.
During the Forbidden Rites event, your goal is to put an end to their nefarious plans. In each area of the campaign, you'll find a ritual encounter. For those unfamiliar, these are effigies that are guarded by the Nameless and their servants. By defeating them within the ritual site, you can then activate the effigy and fight them again as they are revived by dark magic, all whilst various plagues will try to kill you. Defeating the revived monsters causes their blood to go to the effigy to be used as tribute. After the encounter, use the tribute you earned to acquire rewards. These rituals, unlike their in-game counterparts, will not exclusively reward unique items, and instead will give you a bunch of items useful for leveling, like currency for crafting your gear alongside a bunch of equipment. Ultimately, in every area, you get to kill some monsters and then go on a small shopping spree. However, we know people liked having unique item rewards from Ritual, and we wanted that to still be present in the campaign, but we just couldn't give one out in every single area. Throughout each act, 2 times, and once in each interlude part, you'll see these clusters of more epic ritual effigies on the world map. When you reach these areas, you'll notice that unlike normal, the effigies aren't just in a random location in the area, but they're on top of the area's boss fight. By completing these boss rituals, the boss will then be carried forward and added to the next ritual in the cluster in the next area, where you'll face it as part of an increasingly dangerous series of boss waves. For example, the first cluster you'll encounter is shown here, containing large effigies in Clearfell, Mudburrow, the Grelwood, and the Grim Tangle.
Just an event.
If you complete the ritual in Clearfell, the Hag boss will appear during the ritual in the Mudburrow, alongside the Devourer. Once you've completed that area, the ritual in the Grelwood will include Brambleghast, alongside the Hag and the Devourer. Then, to top it off, when you get to Grim Tangle, the ritual in that area will have its boss, the Rotten Druid, and the previous 3, totaling 4 boss fights in one epic final showdown. That's where the unique rewards come into play. By completing these epic boss ritual encounters, you then get to spend your tribute on unique items. Given ritual is the content of the league, we wanted to make sure it worked in multiplayer well. Historically, only the creator of the area gets to spend tribute at the end, while your friends just have to watch. We've made some improvements to this experience. In 055, every party member earns their own tribute and can spend it on their own rewards, so no one has to miss out. In order to make it not too rewarding in groups,
Sounds OP
we've
for
restricted
groups.
it so party members are unable to reroll the shop, and they have fewer options available to choose from.
Okay.
So,
Fair.
that's the campaign and a multiplayer improvement. But what about the endgame? Given that Ritual was already available to be added to your maps, well, once you reach the endgame, you'll still have Ritual encounters in every area, and they'll still give unique items and omens, but we've added one extra mechanic here to add new difficulty and reward heights to your endgame maps. After completing Rituals in endgame, you want to keep an eye out for this item, a Sacred Bloom, which you can spend tribute on to acquire. If you happen to find one, you can then use it and apply an entrance to the Wildwood to an in-game map of your choice on the Atlas. Then, when you enter that map, you'll find this entrance at the start of the area. By entering it, you're sent into the Wildwood. You have limited time here, but while in the Wildwood you can find wisps, and you want to follow the trails of them and collect as many as possible. There are 3 different
And
types
they
of
get
wisps.
one-shot by mobs in your
Primal,
map.
Vivid,
Yep.
and Wild. When you then have to exit the Wildwood, the wisps are freed and will spread across the map, possessing and influencing many monsters.
And then one-shotting you.
Primal wisps, when freed, can cause normal monsters to become magic monsters. Vivid wisps, when freed, can add additional modifiers to rare monsters. And wild wisps add rarity of items dropped to all monsters. If you're rarely lucky, keep an eye out for these sacred wisps. I wonder what they do. Of course, you can gather all 3 types of wisps if you really want to juice your maps. And by using ritual tablets, you can increase the amount of wisps found while in the Wildwood. Be warned though,
Yeah,
while
it's
affected
stupid
monsters
as
drop
fuck.
better items, the
Yeah, they-
wisps also empower them, making
I
them
hate this mechanic. I
considerably more
absolutely hate it.
difficult to defeat.
So stupid.
So,
They're so
that's the
cancer, and then you
Forbidden
get one
Rites
shot.
event.
So what-
While it isn't a full league in the traditional sense, it gives you the perfect
like that
opportunity
event
to
looks
start
mad
in a
as fuck.
fresh economy. For those of you who enjoy having clear goals to work towards,
mid-league,
this
bro.
event league also introduces a new set of 8 challenges. These include completing the campaign rituals, defeating named rare monsters, reaching level 90, and more. Completing them will earn you 4 exclusive cosmetic rewards and a statue for your hideout to commemorate your success. Swarm your enemies with the Locust Footprints effect. And send your foes scurrying to their demise with the Locust Swarm Finisher effect.
Bruh.
Fear the dark no longer with your Wildwood Guardian pet at your side. And level up in fashion with the Wildwood Affliction level up effect.
Let's kind of go, I guess.
Next,
Yeah, all right.
let's talk about the Trial of Chaos. Since Early Access launched,
Complete dog
we've
shit.
received a lot of feedback about the Trial of
worst.
Chaos. It was just obvious that it wasn't good enough. So we've gone through pretty much every part of this trial and made improvements across the board. There's so much to cover here, so let's just fire away with some of the more important changes. Starting with a banger. You can now leave the Trial of Chaos between rooms and resume later at your leisure.
Ah. Cool. Cool.
Alongside improving almost every aspect of the encounter types, we've made far more of the rooms just about slaying all the enemies, instead of the more specific objectives like escorting the statue or implanting soul cores. We've increased the size of that pesky elevator and made them more responsive. We've made the doors between rooms open quicker and from further away. We've shortened the distance between rooms to have less running. We've added a lot more inherent scaling to the area and to the Trial of Sekimas too, to account for the lack of Atlas Tree. We've made the Trial Master only time freeze to spawn in all the monsters once at the start of the run, instead of in many of the rooms. On top of that, we have done a full pass on all the modifiers, making them significantly less dangerous at lower tiers, and rising to the same difficulty at their maximum tier. Additionally, all the modifiers now grant bonuses to item rarity too. The modifiers now also have better descriptions, being more explicit about what danger you're signing up for. We've also added a new kind of modifier, called a wager modifier.
Oh.
These are meta mods that can significantly increase the danger and reward of your trial. For example, this one increases the tier of every modifier already applied to your run. But in exchange for that, doubles all the currency you've earned so far in the run. There's about a dozen of these, and they have some pretty interesting effects. Sometimes you want to apply them early in the run, other times late. They add a very cool dynamic element to the mod selection between rooms. The Uxmal the Beast Lord boss fight in the Trial of Chaos has had its arena redesigned entirely. Less flying, more attacking.
Holy shit.
The more significant elite monsters that spawn during the Trial of Chaos are now more dangerous, but more rewarding. Speaking of rewards, you can now also find these chests between each room to get some bonus items for your efforts.
Bonus items, okay.
And the rewards available when choosing modifiers no longer offer random corrupted items. Now
Thank
exclusively
God.
offering only currency items and soul cores.
Okay.
Oh, and we've done a full balance pass on those too, to make them more powerful.
Ooh.
Alongside adding some new ones to the trial and endgame.
Ooh, what the fuck?
Speaking of the trial and endgame, for those looking for a greater challenge, you'll no longer need to have to stop after 10 rooms. You can now continue all the way to room 30.
What?
With the difficulty
fuck?
and rewards escalating as you progress.
Uh-huh.
Combined with the previously mentioned wager modifiers, the rewards of these runs can get very, very juicy.
The fuck is
Reaching
that?
these later rooms will also allow you to obtain all 3 Trial Master fragments in a single run, giving skilled players a clear and reliable path towards facing the Trial Master rather than leaving their progress entirely to chance. We've moved the functionality of the wager currency mechanic from magic inscribed ultimatums that could drop from the Trial Master into the
currency.
base mechanic. This can be accessed at the end of every 10th room. Overall, this is a much more polished
cool.
version of the Trial of Chaos, and we think it addresses many of the concerns players have raised over the past several months. When we introduced the new endgame in Return of the Ancients, we wanted the journey through the fortress to feel epic, and it was. But your first time progressing through it, it is a massive undertaking. With a fresh economy, we wanted to make the fortress easier to complete. So in 055, we're making some changes. After completing the main questline, you can now just venture out of the fortress and find another Arbiter of Divinity key. By defeating this more difficult version of the boss, all remaining sections of the fortress will be automatically completed. Now, onwards to Abyss. We're introducing a new Atlas feature centered around it. We wanted to add more things to find when exploring the Infinite Atlas. So, we've added these new abyssal ravines that can appear. Each map on the ravines has abysses in it, and as you complete each along it, the next map gets more and more rewarding as you push the Abyssal Legion back.
Goddamn. That's
When you
juicy.
reach the last map on the ravine, you'll have a guaranteed Abyssal boss encounter. The Forbidden Rites event will not have Runes of Aldo content in each area. But fret not. Pharaoh, Danig, and Expedition content is still going to be available in the Atlas as core, and that includes standard leagues. You can now continue to find expeditions in-game, but from Act 4 onwards. In the endgame, Expedition tablets will now be available, allowing for some new levels of investment into the league. Such as having 2 full expeditions in just one area, alongside up to 2 standalone Remnant encounters. With tablet mods, you can now even get many sentries per expedition, resembling an almost sentry minion build as you run around and apply runic modifiers to monsters across the maps. The existing Runes of Aldo League will continue to run, so if you want to keep playing there, finishing your endgame and completing challenges,
Frickin' Sentinel
feel
League,
free to
boys.
do so.
No game.
So that's all our new content summarized for this Event League and 055 update. In case you didn't see it alongside Path of Exile 1's release for Curse of the Allflame, here's a reminder to check out our supporter packs and mystery box that release with it, which are now fully available for use in Path of Exile 2 as well. These include the Plague and Remedis supporter packs, and the Curse of the Allflame mystery box, with some epic items including armor sets, weapon skins, weapon effects, map devices,
That's such a kinda cool map
hideouts,
device, bro. That's kind of cool map device.
a new tracking scroll, some otters, and much more. If you would like to purchase the Curse of the Allflame Mystery Box, it's available now through the in-game shop and Path of Exile 2 website. For more information, head to pathofexile2.com/mystery box for all the details. We'll also be releasing some cool new armor sets and skill effects alongside this release. Check these out. If you're interested, keep an eye out on the store with the new release.
Whoa!
Thanks for your support.
That shit's kind of
Now,
called the blue
we had
glowing
originally
shit.
thought we were going to deploy a much larger balance pass in this patch. But unfortunately, with all the other work going on for our 1.0 release, we were not able to get these changes ready in time.
Rip.
It's been a lot more work than we expected. So rather than deploy something substandard, we decided it would be better to take our time with the balance changes and just release the Event League anyway. All those balance changes that were slated for 055 will now be happening in 1.0 instead.
What's the point of the event league if it's not for testing the
The
balance?
full release patch is shaping up to be a huge one. And if you haven't done so yet,
I think I know what's
you
going
can
on.
acquire exclusive milestone rewards just by signing up at pathofexile2.com for the 1.0 full release. Also, we hope you join us for ExileCon on November 7th New Zealand time to see what else we've been cooking
I'll
up.
be there.
But in the meantime, we hope you enjoy the Forbidden Rites event, which starts at the end of next week. See you in Rayclast. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D, so get your questions ready.
Oh, fucking Ziggy, fucking D, yay! Yo, guys. They are gonna release, so I'm telling you now, the reason why they're not even doing the balance testing, and the reason why they're skipping it now, is the obviously time and that shit, whatever. But I think they've decided to go balls to the wall. And just say, fuck it, let's just release these swords and shit, and they're just going to be broken. It's like the Death Knight strategy. Everyone pogs out when something's super OP, and they're going to let 1.0 be completely broken. Because they don't want to get review bombed on 1.0 launch. They don't want Reddit to rage out about the not being OP on League. I'm telling you now, 1.0 is going to be the most broken fucking league where they intentionally don't hotfix anything and have as many broken builds as possible because all the Reddit anties.
G'day and welcome back, Exiles. Joining you from around the world, I am Ziggy D in Australia. We've got Jonathan over at Gamescom, and we've got Mark in New Zealand. So we're all over the place this time, coming at you remotely for some Q&A to talk about what we saw with the Duelist today, the 0.55 event update, and various other little questions that you might have in a bit of a mini Q&A session. Thanks for joining us from all over the place, folks. Jonathan, you're at Gamescom at the moment, where some lucky people are able to actually play the Duelist. How's it been going?
Absolutely. So yeah, it's honestly been great. It's really good to see players just being able to play and experience the game. It's always fun. But my voice is actually a bit screwed right now because I've been kind of yelling over the loudness of the Gamescom. Trying to explain complicated Duelist mechanics. In yelling form. So my voice is a bit messed up. So hopefully you guys can forgive that. But it's always fun talking to to players and journalists and seeing what they think.
Yeah, have you been able to get some good kind of in-person feedback there, since you're right there with people as they're playing?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's great. We've also got Kevin, who's been one of the designers, doing working on the Duelist as well. He's been able to get direct feedback, talk to players as well. It's been really good.
Awesome. And Mark, you're over in New Zealand, where you were just working on the endgame builds that you showcased in that video there, which were pretty spicy. How are things going over there in the studio?
Well, I'm at home right now, but it's been pretty hectic. It always is for these deadlines, just pulling everything together. But these in-game builds we just had to put together in the last, honestly, it felt like the last week really is when I was like, okay, we've got to theory craft some epic shit. Let's put it together. And came up with, I said made by developers. Technically that is true, but I kind of theory crafted both of them and was like, let's get cranking. And they both seemed pretty fun. I mean, they were definitely fun to play. Hopefully they were fun to watch, but there's a lot more as well. So there's good dozen builds I had in mind, and I was like, oh, we were going to go with them, and we're going down a whole bunch of different paths, and it just kind of ended up, I was like, I want to do something traditional that uses a bunch of swords and something demonic, because why not? So it was quite interesting that I ultimately just got to pick a fantasy and then make it happen. But of course, the difference between me making builds
just etch it in.
and players making builds
Yeah.
is you have to make a build with what works, whereas I make the build and then I'm like,
I need this.
go and make it happen, development team. Thank you. So
Change the balance until it works, basically.
yeah.
Make this a thing. Well, you certainly have a lot to work there with the Duelist. There is a lot going on there. I know, Jonathan, you personally were just telling me earlier that you're like very excited for the Duelist in particular, and that it's the most fun that you've had with the game so far, or something to that effect.
Absolutely. I really love this class. Like, I really love melee combat in games. Like, it's something that I really enjoy. And this one really, honestly, I would say finally kind of delivers something that I would say is like peak melee in an ARPG. Like, I honestly really love it. But also just there's so many intricacies to the skill design in this class that's really interesting. Like, I don't think we've ever sort of woven so many different ways to kind of do mechanics with all the different with all the different skills. Like, every skill is like designing 3 or 4 skills, honestly, just due to all the different ways that you can use them. But at the same time, it's like it's all quite diegetic, by which I mean, like, you kind of like, there's metal in the ground, you electrify it, and now it's like zapping things and things like that. It's all kind of obvious in some ways, but also kind of complicated too, because there's just so many ways you can
in
use
the
everything.
game immersion.
There's a ton of nuance to it, but even so, I had a chance to play it last time I was visiting, like a couple months back, and there's some sort of intuitiveness to how the skills end up working together, where you can almost play without reading some of those descriptions, I think, which is good because there's a lot of descriptions you did have to write for those. Given the
it is actually kind of interesting in the studio, because the people who are more, I guess, stat focused are actually the ones that feel the class is more complicated than the ones who just like take it as they see it. Because if you look at the number of stat sets, it is kind of crazy, because you'll have like, it's like you've got a buried blade explosion, and then you've got to be like, okay, then buried blade when it's got electricity, and then buried blade explosion with electricity, with electricity, right? Or versus just the electrical hits, and it just ends up being like half a dozen stat sets on every skill that you, which is what we call the different tabs that you see on the skill gem. So if your first experience of the game is like looking at the skill gem hovers and like looking at every single stat set, then you're not necessarily in for as good of a time as if you just like try out the skill and see what it does. And I guess that's sort of quite different than what a lot of our skills have been like in the past. But I honestly really love it, just because there's so many interesting ways to use the skills.
With this, just having such an extensive set of like skill interactions compared to anything you've had so far, how challenging is designing this one and getting it to work and be playable in that way, being, say, compared to the Huntress and the Druid?
Well, I'll tell you what, this is one of the hardest classes to design, and a lot of it was like, okay, swords are pretty much the most generic weapon ever, right? And you ask like 10 different people what a sword does, and they'll give you 10 different answers. Like, there are certain fantasies, and we kind of had to make sure we were delivering like pretty much anyone's fantasy of a sword, and there's like quite a few different ones, right? So, that you have to go through. But I think the kind of like thing that ties it all together is that, to me, swords are about like the kind of that flow feeling. That's what I kind of wanted to nail, and that's where the whole sort of ready stance thing kind of came from. So it took a lot of iteration to get there. I went through so many different designs of the way that swords can work, and eventually it's funny because the whole blood and sand thing wasn't even part of the initial design, and at some point I realized that some of the stuff that we were designing was coming kind of close to that, and I'm like, oh yeah, hang on, in PoE 1 we've got this blood and sand theme. What if we actually took that and like effectively used that theme on top of some of the mechanics we were designing? And then it all kind of really rapidly came together after that. Like, we suddenly realized, like, yeah, this is sort of the feel, like the theme of like physical stuff that we can go with for the Duelist. And it ended up working really well. So I'm really happy with the way that ended up.
Yeah, the stance thing in particular, I remember when I was trying it, like, and you're talking about flow and how important that was. And I remember I was having an issue where I really wanted to get into ready stance and then move to the next monster to execute my next skill.
Right.
But that would break ready stance. But I noticed that that's something that you've solved in the new iterations. You've got this way that you can even carry through now.
Yeah, so since you played that, we added the idea that there are some skills that you
ages.
can use without breaking ready stance, and in particular, the rending dash that you can use to sort of dash from one place to another. Having that be an option that you can do without breaking ready stance sort of allows for that repositioning that you can do, and it honestly speeds up quite a lot of what you can do. I didn't use it that much in the demo that I was showing, but for actual like practical play, I highly recommend using it, because if you're someone who likes to zoom around, then using that skill can really add quite a lot to what you're doing.
I think people are probably a little bit confused in general about like the ready stance and the blood and sand as well. So how do those just effectively work ultimately?
Yeah. So fundamentally what you've got here is that there are two different, at least two that we showed, ready stance skills. One of them kind of moves backwards as more defensive, and that's the sand one. If you stun a monster with that, then it's going to put you in sand stance. The other one is moving forward, more aggressive, and that one, if you hit a parried monster, it's going to put you in blood stance. So if you're into the sort of parry gameplay early on, then blood is the one for you. If you're more into, if you're not into that, then using the sand one is like more your style.
Bit of a
then
sand
you go
game
that way.
here, but I like
But
parrying.
all of it is by
I
passing
like parrying
frenzy
bosses.
charges as well. So one of the questions that we often get is like, what if I don't want to parry? What if I don't want to do the stun stuff? And frenzy charges effectively act as your bypass. So as Mark showed in one of those builds there, combat frenzy is like a good way to be able to kind of like, get those stances without that. But there's even other ways as well. So there's also support gems that allow you to get blood and sand without having to even do either of those skills as well, and like quite a few different options. Like there are actually a huge number of different options that
Got a couple
really
uniques
love
as
it.
well. We've got at least
Yeah.
one sand stance unique and one blood stance unique right now that weren't shown.
And then there's also the thing of getting blood on the ground as a way to get blood on things like Cyclone. I actually didn't realize this was going to happen, but in one of my demos, I had one of those vampire monsters from Act 1, and it's like used one of those blood pools on the ground, and that actually triggered the blood.
Emergent.
And I had no idea that we actually had done that even. Like I didn't realize that those blood pools technically were the same mechanic.
That's cool.
So
That's
you
trippy.
can like get blood-coated Cyclone from just playing against one of those vampire monsters.
Well, that sort of touches on one of my other questions then. So, like, some people, I think, especially people who maybe just played a little bit of parry when Huntress first came out, and obviously since then it's changed quite a bit. About parry, some people are definitely worried about parry. Like, they see that as like
I
a
mean,
negative
dude,
for
that
us to be
Kamen
focused on
gameplay
that because of the
of
bad
parrying,
experience not had with it or
holy
something.
shit.
So, how has parry changed or been improved here, and also how like mandatory is it for the duelist playstyle there?
Well, certainly we didn't want it to be mandatory because that was one of those things we did with the Huntress where parry was really important for that class initially, and we wanted to make sure that it wasn't here. That being said, it is a duelist. I want parry to be a thing for it, so we did want at least one of the archetypes to involve that. But at the same time, one of the big issues that we've had with parry, kind of two things really. Like it just comes down to unreliability. So there's a new change that we've just implemented for parry, which was actually quite complicated to do, and it's a little bit complicated to explain as well. But effectively, what we've done is we've made it so that when you're parrying, your character is effectively enlarged against skills that are parryable. So that means that you'd kind of have this problem before where you'd feel like you would try to parry something, and it looked like the monster would kind of hit you, but it just didn't. And that was happening all the time, and like one of the frustrating things about parry. So what we've done is now that we've made this change, it means that monsters hit you much more reliably when you're parrying, and so it just makes the whole thing a lot better. But the other issue that we had as well is just boss fights. Like some boss fights just don't really have a lot of parryable attacks, and that's where the shield thing comes in. We can do the shield bash to allow you to parry a monster even when they're not attacking you. So that one's kind of like, it also can be used during clearing as well. But I sort of saw that as fixing like the boss fight problem of just some bosses just don't have abilities that easy parry. So it makes the whole thing a lot more reliable in any context right there. So both of those changes together really do improve the feel quite a lot compared to what we had before. And honestly, I love to parry personally, but as I said, even with that said, we know it's not for everyone, so we wanted to make sure there's other options too.
Yeah, that shield, the Buckler shield bash parry was super satisfying when I was messing around with that. So
it is one of those things that's so hard to explain to people though, because where do you even put the tutorial for that? It's just kind of like an extra thing on your native skill that you've got, just the shield that you've got right from the beginning. Normally people don't look at the videos for the base skills like that. Like technically there are videos for it.
How does it work? You
go
block
to the
and then you
menu,
let go and it does a shield bash, right?
Nobody's really digging
how it
into there
works?
looking for that, so it's kind of hard to find where to explain that. But I guess anyone who listens to this live stream will know about it, and hopefully that'll slowly make its way through the community.
I was going to ask because I didn't even know about that until you told me about it later. What were you saying?
Yeah.
A couple more parry things there for a bit later as well. We have a not that I'm trying to spoil everything. We have a new reservation skill codenamed Arcane Parry right now, which is effectively it charges up, and then when you parry, it does a much more significant shockwave comes out of you, just to allow for a lot more area of effect coverage.
That means that all those monsters get parried as well, by the way. So the point of this is to effectively make it so that we had this thing before where there was a period there where parry was had a really, really huge range. And it was good for endgame, but we didn't really like that it was so non-physical. So by adding this kind of effect to it and actually making it into a mechanic that you can do with a spirit reservation, Now it becomes a thing that we can much more readily accept, and it is a good way to actually make parry viable in endgame as well, by just making it hit like a much larger area.
That parry fix where you're enlarged, is that in 0.55 or is that a 1.0 alongside Duelist change?
It's probably in 1.0, I would imagine.
1.0.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it'll be 1.0.
All right. What were you saying?
But yeah, we also have a new unique helmet coming, which causes your war cries to parry enemies in the full radius. And we also have we're currently trying. We're hoping we can get
Apply parry debuff,
just so that if people want to play two-handed sword and want to still engage with it, we're trying a two-handed sword base type that grants parry, and you can parry with that. So that'll be a very specific base type.
I'm excited about that.
Base type.
Yeah.
I was definitely a little sad to see that you couldn't parry with the two-hander, but I kind of get not wanting them all to be the same. So having the differences there, because so you can parry with the dual wield swords, which is obviously a unique thing to swords, and you can parry with the buckler, all the armor evasion shield bases, right? Like the other ones as well. So you've got the parry with those, but that lets you a unique two-handed sword parry. That's pretty cool. I mean, you guys like make more work for yourselves. That means even more animations.
I'm still live though, right? We're watching this.
Sure.
Just for that.
Sure. You know, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
I was going to ask about the animations actually, because these are definitely sort of the cooler animations that we've seen so far, and also just in general, like some of the coolest sword animations I've seen in any game. Even noticing like some real kind of like authentic aspects to some of the movements and stuff. Like obviously it's over the top, like giant sword slams and stuff, but some of the like movements in like say the Cyclone and the way the swords twist around and the swords are handled and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, there's someone knows sword stuff on your team.
It has done a phenomenal job, not only of the animation itself, but also just researching stuff. And I actually had someone at Gamescom, like a journalist, say to me that they actually know how to, you know, they've used a sword and done some like, you know, blade practice. And the first thing he said was, oh, you know, like, did you like hire anyone to like advise about this? And it's like, no, one of our animators is just really interested in this stuff. And what they do is he's got like a you know weighted plastic blade that he's got in the studio, and he can film video reference of himself like doing things and sort of get some of that to get video of it that he can use to kind of work out how to do the movements. But he's just really interested in all of this kind of stuff, and he does a lot of research, like watching YouTube videos of actual people like doing this stuff, and it's resulted in like just a really amazing looking set of animations. Like honestly some of the best animation work we've done.
Yeah, I would have believed if you had said like, oh yeah, we had some Heba guy came in, we mocapped them or something. So that's really impressive work. So some great stuff. Yeah, it looks super wicked. But at the same time, like you've also not been afraid to go a bit over the top there. One of the press images with a gigantic anime.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be some level of anime inspiration if you're talking about swords for certain things. Like as I said before, like everyone's got different fantasies about what being a swordsman means, and the sort of anime sword thing is definitely one of those. So we kind of had to have it.
Yeah, you've tried to touch on all of those. You definitely got that dash-in kind of nothing personal anime thing where they slice and then fall apart afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure if we even showed that in the video, really, but we actually have some new tech now where all of the monsters are capable of being sliced into pieces. So it actually works like all the monsters are being like split up, and then we can. It's actually a mechanic. You know what? Actually, one of the in-game builds had it, didn't it? Where you slice monsters up, and then we've even got mechanics to take advantage of that, like the one that makes so that some of the chunks explode after they get sliced up. Yeah, so it's an actual thing now. We kind of originally did it just as a visual cool thing, but we turned an actual game mechanic as well now, so that's kind of interesting too.
I had the meat chunks on bleed. I think we're calling them meat chunks internally. Meat chunks on bleed, but I didn't have the meat chunks on slice and dice or whatever.
Right, okay, you didn't know that one.
No, that's a different build.
Right.
Am I not allowed to floss on stream? Is that
well,
bad?
I know that this has been a pretty challenging class to showcase, and it's something we chatted about quite a bit, how you wanted to like show, you know, the campaign and the end game. And I think like having both of those here in this showcase has been really good for people so they can see and have like kind of like that full picture. Obviously, wanted the slower technical stuff to show like how the animations work, how the interactions work, and then you wanted the end game to show like what people can aspire to. But how well do you think overall that you've been managed to communicate the duelist here? Because I feel like it's a hard thing to nail down without actually playing it.
Mostly because, like, you know, you can see the fluidity, sort of. You don't really know how it feels. So, I mean, honestly, one of the reasons why I was so keen to demonstrate it at Gamescom, so a bunch of people can get their hands on it, Yeah, honestly, it's just been really good. Like a lot of people really enjoyed it. So I think I think I was a little bit worried, right? Because
Kappa,
like I was worried, like
33.
will people understand ready stance and so on? And we were so worried about it. We're like, okay, we need to have some like signs up that explain ready stance. We need to make sure there's a tutorial in this Gamescom build that we've got for this, just for that to make sure it works. And if all else fails, we've got Kevin who can just walk around and tell people if they're not doing it. That's the just like really certain that everyone understands the mechanic. But yeah, like honestly, once you feel it, once you feel the flow, it totally makes sense. And honestly, even like some of the design meetings I'll have, I'm just like sitting there, just like doing ready stance attacks. I'm like, oh, like I'll sometimes just like lose track of time just sitting there like doing it. It's just so fun to actually do. Yeah, I really enjoy that part.
So those endgame builds look very spicy. I know a fear was that like some people would feel that swords were too weak or too slow because you were showing just that early campaign side of things.
Yeah.
But if anything, after seeing like those endgame builds, I'm wondering like almost the opposite is like, is there a risk here that like the endgame power level of players has just become so high that opportunities to enjoy some of that deeper gameplay is becoming like too far and like too few and far?
It is a potential concern for sure. Balance will be tricky, I suspect, to get right.
Well,
you know, all those things you saw are like the current balance, but maybe Mark, you've got some more theories about that.
Those builds when they were getting filmed, I was like, they're just too strong. They're too strong. And I think even Jonathan, you had some feedback. You're like, just make them a little bit weaker. Like you don't need to one hit literally everything. And I was like, we're already filming these in tier 25 map equivalents with like
There was a problem at one point like that.
I'm like, what am I supposed to do? They're just there's some obviously though, we're like putting together a class for demonstration purposes for like a convention and to put together these builds. Like obviously we still have some more work to do with respect to that balance kind of side of things, but it's definitely very, very powerful right now. Some of that dust has to calm down, but that's okay. You know, we'll get there. These things take a lot of time to iterate on, and of course, we have till December 11th to do that. So I'm not concerned about the amount of time. In fact, we've never had a class this ready with this much time, so that's a good thing.
Wait, I'm getting more classes.
Yeah, it means we can make more builds, get even more ready, have the balance be ideally in the best spot.
Shut the fuck up, one man spammer.
Hopefully players will agree, but we'll see. But yeah, definitely.
I can't ban him; it's lagging.
I would say right now it is too OP for sure. Like, it's. I mean, I've played through the campaign a whole bunch of times on it, and I'm just like, you know, I shouldn't be this powerful. Like comparatively with everything else. Like I get that people at Gamescom might not have the same kind of, because like that's you're starting in Act 5, you're on a pre-made character. What is the gear even like? It's like not necessarily optimized and all of that. So you know, people there are probably going to have a different experience. But you know, what you see is very strong. Also, that is filmed in. I understand tier 25 map. What does that mean? We have, obviously, we can just set the levels of any area. That is a tier 25 map equivalent of filming for those in-game builds. So, yes, there are some power concerns, but it's, again, with this much time, it should be pretty easy to deal with it. It's nothing new, really.
He's role-playing.
Yeah, I mean, so this is like way earlier than you've ever been able to showcase class. So getting that hands-on in the public, it gives you lots of time to make those tweaks and see all those points that people are like, oh, people keep missing this detail as you're going around and being like, oh, you can do that. You'll get to kind of learn where those pain points potentially are. Mark, I noticed a bejeweled implicit on Oro's sacrifice. What does that mean?
I saw that.
Yeah, well, okay. I've mentioned a few cool base types. So we just to clarify, there was the two-handed sword with readied stance. With parry. Right, and these are base types. So we've put a lot of effort into making the base types of swords real like epic. And honestly, I want to then propagate it to every other weapon type. To be honest, so we've got, just to clarify before we get to bejeweled, we've had parry two-handed sword. We showed a base parry duration one-handed sword. What was the other one we showed? Two-hander. There was the buried blades are ancestrally boosted that we showed in that video. And then Oro's Sacrifice has bejeweled, which is the base type property of the Twilight longsword, I believe it's called. And that item comes with a dual socket instead of regular sockets. So it's not necessarily better, but it's sort of interesting, and it's trying to just create a bunch of different things with all the different base types where, that whole suite of them that will drop at end game. So currently, like a lot of weapons, you probably get like 5 base types at end game, maybe 6. Pretty much the entire sword line will have a end game counterpart with all the implicits, just because we've put a lot of cool stuff there. And you do still have your traditional, here's the one that's high attack speed, here's the one that's got some crit, here's the one that's just the bonk damage and all of that. But then all the others we've tried to make sure have really special implicits, and that includes the base type of Oro Sacrifice. So yeah, hopefully people enjoy it and think it's cool, but I definitely was pretty excited about it. And honestly, I find now the base type itself like has some build enabling properties, which I would say hasn't really happened before. So I'm excited to see having that extra axis of like, damn, what sword do I want to use? There's like 3 or 4 options here. I don't know what to do. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I love these bases with like weird implicits that do interesting things like that. So I hope that is something you propagate out to the rest of the game there. Love it. Let's talk about what's coming up in the nearer future for people to get their hands on with. But first, you did mention that you were hoping originally to get a big balance pass in 0.055 in the lead up to launch, but now that's the bulk of that at least is being pushed until launch. Is there some stuff that you feel like you really want to get in before then, though? Is there anything that you do want to get into 0.55 potentially?
Well, want to and realistically possible are the 2 things that are at clash here. I wanted to get all of it in. It just wasn't coming together in a way that wasn't just going to... Like, the things with this is you can't like half-ass it and deploy it. If you remove all of X and don't do all of Y, it's just like, okay, why did you just remove all of that? I don't understand. And we weren't just able to bring those packages of changes together, especially while we've got a whole new class in development getting fully balanced and prepared. And that made it even twice as hard because, as Jonathan's mentioned in the past, and we've talked about, every single time we make a new class, we end up changing every system under the sun. And then we want some of those in and some of those not in. And it was just this giant ruckus of, it's like a kind of just massive writhing changes everywhere. And it was so hard.
Literally just merging the changes was a disaster. Like just like picking the things, like the commits, like do these guns go in, do those ones not go in? Like we're in the middle of doing like a massive bleed revamp in order to do the duelist, and yet we also want to try to somehow like what parts of that need to go in and what parts don't. And, like it's just like such a crazy puzzle. And we are at the point where literally like our producers were like, we don't know if we can make a build of this. Of like what you want, like we've got a bunch of changes. We don't think we can even create a build that works in the timeline that we need it to be. So yeah, it was challenging even on that level. But not only that, there was the issue of just like more changes were needed, like more things needed to actually happen as well.
For example, to support echoing strikes, we had to make it. We effectively refactored our entire cloning system, which kind of touched on every single skill in the game. And it's like, okay, well, we don't want that because it's untested, has a bunch of ramifications and stuff we still need to iterate on. Yet now any change we have to make to every single skill now has a conflict when we're trying to merge it to the actual build. And honestly, it was just turning into an absolute disaster. And it was like, okay, this just isn't going to be ready, and
as a dev,
we're just going to have to keep delaying it, and to the point where like, what are we even going to get here? And yeah, it just wasn't really feasible, honestly, and it was causing us. I mean, honestly, I would say that working around all of that was making everything take significantly longer, and then all of a sudden now we're getting less done because we're having to work around that, and it was just not coming together, and it is sad, and I am real gutted about it because there's a lot of like real cool stuff there. Like we have Ascendancy class reworks. We have, many new uniques, reworked uniques. We have just stuff everywhere. And I was like, man, this stuff is cool. And I was even just describing it all to Jonathan and how excited I was about it. And I was like, no, I want it all in there. But it just honestly wasn't production-wise feasible at all. So it's sad.
Go ahead.
It is more for 1.0 though, so that's always good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, with it being such like a eldritch horror of interconnected balance changes there,
Lovecraftian, bro.
are you worried about putting it out at 1.0 then? Because that was like
No,
that was the
no,
thing.
because the difference is that when we're making like an 055 patch, what we're doing is we're taking changes from our kind of like development version, we merge them in. But when we're going to make a new, entirely new release, that's what's called a retag. We effectively like take everything that we have on our development version, and it's all going to go live. So there's not like this kind of same production hell that you get when you're trying to like make a build out of parts from.
I think he means from the test. I think he means from the testability sake, maybe.
Well, sure, I guess so. I mean, yeah, there's always that, but look, 1.0 is going to get a hell of a lot of testing. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff to do there. So our QA team will be all over that.
We got more time now to make sure it's right as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Since most of the balance changes are being deferred to 1.0, I won't dive into too many of the balance related questions at this point, since it's all still obviously quite a ways away. But one of the things we did discuss was the plus levels side of things, and that is probably the one that came up the most. And I know you guys said in the past that you were reviewing some changes in 0.5 from that to see how that they landed. But it does seem like plus levels are still seen as quite a bit of a problem, crowding out uniques and increasing inavailability in some cases as well with some of the stuff from the Runes of Aldor. So how are you feeling about plus level balance overall at this point now, or moving forwards towards 1.0? Is that on your radar there?
It is still on the radar, yes. I haven't actually done the changes for it yet, and I don't 100% know exactly what to do, but I mean, we've had probably 15 discussions about it now, so it's one of those, it's turning into the next dexterity for sure. And we'll see.
Chad, I can read
we'll see.
you.
We'll end up somewhere for sure. I just don't know exactly what that is right now, but
I don't want to talk over them while they're talking.
Second on the spreadsheet. There's like a spreadsheet called Mark to do something, and
you're not invisible.
The second one. So it's
what's number one out of interest?
We're having another balance meeting today to discuss it. So what is number one? It's probably just whatever I added last. Number one is reserved for this hasn't been sorted in the list yet.
Okay.
Because I just insert at the top of the sheet when I add stuff. So and then it gets reprioritized.
But that one stays at number 2. I see. Okay. Have you guys discussed like some of the things being kicked around? I've seen like, I don't know what's a good solution and what's not and for what reasons here, but have you discussed like, maybe like level 30 is the cap that you can reach for gems, or limiting the amount you can get there? Or is it more of something you're looking at, it's maybe just about getting the numbers right, like we just want to bring those down to certain levels? Where do you kind of feel it is?
Caps have, there is a cap, but yes, caps have been discussed. I think the important thing we want to do is not
capping is officially lame.
Well, honestly, I would say there is a few problems with like caster itemization, and I want to make sure that we don't just take away that itemization. Even very early in the game, caster itemization isn't as good as it could be. But it's really hard when you're dealing with fundamental mod pools. Like even early game runes are not as impactful, obviously, for casters, right? Where you get like flat damage ones for attackers and casters don't, and it propagates all the way through. And I get that some of the leagues have added some, breach caster items, for example, have added some in-game itemization, but there is a more fundamental problem here for sure. So I just don't want to make the itemization for casters worse. Let's make it really. That's honestly how it is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you come up with there then.
I get that it extends further than just casters, but like that's the main thing of not wanting to ruin.
I know there's several discussions there.
Everyone has a different perception of like, what is good itemization or not. I'm talking about just generally what we believe to be good itemization, as opposed to
I don't necessarily see an inherent problem with plus levels. I think it's just that the power level of it and its availability is high to the point where it does crowd out other item choices. So it feels like you're, if it's not that, then it's not worth using effectively.
We definitely have a thing right now where every single caster unique that gets made, it's like doesn't have plus gem levels, sucks. And
one out.
Even with all of the new uniques we've been making, it's like you kind of want to default to be like, this needs +4, this needs +6, this needs plus, and it's like, do we really have to?
No, just remove plus from everything, bro. What are we doing?
But to compare, like, should be like in the same way that you're making a when you're making a weapon, like generally you can't just be like, nah, I'm not going to put any damage mods on it. So like a martial weapon. So it just doesn't feel quite the same. And I do understand why. I've discussed that before. But anyway, we'll see what happens, but we will do something.
Jonathan's not pleased.
All right. So the Forbidden Rights event, so just to clarify for folks, this being an event is different to a regular expansion. It's a different thing entirely. It's not a league and expansion in that same way. So what of the changes that you talked about are specific to this Forbidden Rights event versus core game changes here as well?
Yeah, so this is our first time ever that we've had a league be both running and core. And we just noticed there was a lot of people still playing Runes of Aldo. We didn't want to end it. So we wanted to keep that running. So we've had to do a large number of hacks to both support something being core and not. But
it's weird.
The tablets are for the event and standard league. So the because the league is in every area in Runes of Aldo, you don't get tablets to further it. What else have we changed there? I mean, you don't get remnants in every area during the event, but you can once you start using tablets. And it's honestly for those who have obviously played leagues and seen leagues go core, or people who played our previous leagues for PoE2, like Fate of the Val, and then the Temple became core. Ultimately, it should feel like all the content from Runes of Aldo is now in its core state while you're playing in the event and standard leagues. And if you continue to play Runes of Aldo, you should notice no difference. That's pretty much it. We have made some changes, like obviously it's not introduced now so currently in the Forbidden Rights event, the content, the characters aren't introduced until Act 4 when you're doing the quest in Act 4. So you won't see any through Act 1, 2, and 3.
I'll be honest, I don't really care about the event.
What else is different there? I think the only other thing we may have, I'm pretty sure we changed it is, which I don't know how people are going to respond to this one, but we've removed from the Forbidden Rights and Standard League, so it's not in the current Runes of Aldo, it didn't want to affect the economy, but Elder's Saga, the mods from it are now in the core mod pool of what can generate on logbooks, as opposed to requiring that item.
Jonathan fell asleep.
You'll have to determine the rarity yourself.
What are you doing?
And then we've replaced that outcome from the remnant encounters.
Fell asleep, bro.
Just so that the entirety of the end game for that isn't just Elder's Sagaing, and that's it.
Awesome.
Good
stuff. The ritual, speaking of like the end game here for the league, for the new league, the event, the Sacred Bloom from the rituals that lets you add the Sacred Wildwood to maps. How rare are these roughly? Is that something we can be applying to every decent map, or just kind of the most juiced ones because it's going to be rare and valuable? It's a big thing, being able to get the Wildwood.
It's about 1 in 5 maps to get one about, but give or take. So yeah, you're not going to run it every map, but of course it's tradable. So
yeah,
just go ahead and buy them. So yeah, I don't know. I think that was a pretty decent rate, but we may still iterate on that.
That seems like the sort of thing you could easily afford to run fairly frequently then. With that being the case, back when we had this before in Affliction League, it was probably the most insane juicing thing we've ever had. So both in terms of difficulty and reward, which is really cool for a number of reasons. Like obviously people like big loot explosions, but also you could make the hardest monsters of all time outside of deepest delves. Is this potentially going to be a similarly spicy thing for Path of Exile 2?
It's obviously pretty hard to compare the drops because it's just an entirely different drop ecosystem. Are you going to be having to hover and identify 100 heavy belts in every map? Probably not, but for those who that is my strict memory of Affliction is I am so sick of looking at heavy belts on the ground. I think they actually got 2 mirrors in that league as well, which I feel like shouldn't happen, but maybe even more than
crazy. I've only ever got one in more.
Yes, I have equal memories of Affliction. Don't worry about that. But the way that the Wisp scale the monsters is a bit different anyway. So instead of just rarity, PoE1 did rarity, quantity, and chance for items to be currency, I believe as it was. Instead, here what we've done is blue wisps turn monsters magic, normal monsters magic, yellow wisps add mods to rare monsters, and purple wisps add rarity to everything. So purple, magenta, so, you know, if you're stacking rare monsters, obviously yellow and purple is the, you know, right combination to get. So are you going to expect the same levels of juice? Hard to say. It should definitely be a good alternate way to juice in-game maps compared to, say, something like Delirium right now. And of course, though, you can stack both of them. So, you know, to some degree, of course, because they both get better with tablets, so they are contesting with one another, but you can just run both and stack it with everything else that is in the in-game currently. So should be pretty out there, pretty crazy.
Right on. Rapid fire. The Trial of Chaos was the changes there look amazing. It was one of my least favorite parts of the game. So those changes, there's huge sort of improvements there. I love to see that. Is Sekima's likely to get a similar treatment in some way on the way to 1.0? It's not as bad in my opinion, but still be good to see.
It is in terms of content, that existing content that needs improving. It is the next. Like as an actual like in content, not like character side or balance or anything. It is the next thing on our list that is the worst thing.
The next worst.
So yes, we definitely want to, but obviously lot to do for the end of the year. So we'll have to see if we can fit it in, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, like if not for release, then you'd look at it for 1.1 kind of 1. territory for sure.
Well, you're talking 1.1.
But honestly, the changes we made to Trial of Chaos are like it's so much better. Like oh my god, and it should never have been in that state. Like I was writing and reading all the patch notes, and I was just like, we should never have had to write this. This should not have ever needed to have been a patch note. This is like horrendous.
Bad design.
And I'm sure when we get through Trial of Sekimas, we're going to have a similar situation going on. So,
are they going to announce like multiple more ascendancies?
It's not as bad. At least there's like a kind of strategy there to some degree, and ways to make money, and you know, divines. But yeah, it needs a substantial amount of love for sure.
Awesome. What? Good to hear.
No, 1.0 is going to be like multiple, like 5
ascendancies. A few more rapid fires on the end game. The challenge level of end game caps out pretty early currently. That's good for build diversity, honestly. But it does mean that there are some limited options for like testing your more powerful characters. Uber bosses and more challenging like end game content. That's something on the radar for maybe for 1.0 or something.
I don't want to commit to like higher tiers of boss content and difficulty to too much of a degree, especially with respect to Uber bosses, until we have the character balance in the right spot. Yeah. And in theory, 1.0 should have them in the right spot. But you know how balance goes with these things, with live service products in particular. And similar to PoE1, right? It's every single league we have balance changes. So it's one of those infinite tasks. That being said, I definitely don't want to add Uber boss content until we've felt like that's in a stable spot for sure. I actually went out of my way to play a number of kind of atrocious builds this league. Just like I picked literally the worst thing, the things that were being played the least, and I played them. And honestly, fighting those pinnacles with those characters was insanely difficult. And I was like, if we were to add content beyond this, it's just impossible. It's just not going to even be possible. It was actually like, and I played a good character as well, and I was just like, okay, we need to. You can choose. We've got some work to do here before we go and create a bunch of content that a bunch of players will literally never be able to even achieve, even if they did everything right, because the character balance is the low end is just not in the right spot at all, and honestly, the very very top end, the top 1% kind of builds, is not in the right spot either. So, once we get that, I'm hoping to be able to actually start, thinking about it. Okay, but I mean, the Wildwood will go towards making things harder, so don't rest assured.
It's about to pass out. Wrap it up.
Potential there. There's been a few questions about the state of tablets, focusing on tablet management, trading, rolling them, the work that kind of goes into getting the modifiers that you want for your in-game farming strategies. You get it compared to things like Scarabs, which have those set effects. So they've got that double whammy of like random modifiers and the limited uses. What do you like? like or not like about current tablet design? Is this something you're thinking about at all, or is this kind of the first time you've heard that brought up? Yeah, how are you guys feeling about tablet design?
We've actually discussed it pretty in depth recently when also talking about PoE 1 with respect to like the current state of endgame there and talking about all of the changes we want to make around there and how it compares to PoE 2 and what parts do we like and not like. Personally, I really like the tablet, the mod rolling side of things. And what we've found is generally over time, there is at least an audience that are more aligned towards wanting determinism, and thus the mod rolling can get phased out. And I actually think that this has been a big part of the discussion where we're looking at this. I feel like by adding more determinism and removing these like random axes, the strategies end up becoming quite dull and then have to just be balanced around that determinism, and then they get neutered, and then you've just lost kind of everything because everything is all equal and everything's all balanced. And it's had that effect, like definitely it's had that effect as to where the fine line is between the kind of mod rolling and the determinism. I'd say that it's something we still have to kind of figure out, but I'm quite happy with how that is right now, where there's like some crazy stuff you can do, but it requires specific tablets with specific mods. And so, yeah, I immediately caught us. We were actually doing this for 055. I was like, bro. All of a sudden I saw a bunch of the really spike modifiers getting kind of like people pushing to nerf this, nerf that, get this in line with the rest of the content. And I was like, let's not do that right now. I think there's one or two that like, okay, I understand that I'm beyond reason, but I was like, let's pull back some of that because I want to actually reevaluate how much power you should be able to get out of these random modifiers as opposed to things that are just baseline always on. So yeah, there's still some evaluation to do there, but personally, I'm quite happy with it. I love that you get some tablets that are out of control and cause you to have, well, my recent demonstration, an army of sentinels or sentries following you around, adding runes to everything. We have some crazy stuff with the Expedition. I mean, the Expedition tablet mod is actually a lot larger and has a lot more spike stuff at the top, so I'm actually quite curious to see how people feel about that in the Forbidden Rites, to see how that plays as well. We've tried to make sure that mod pool is larger than the other tablet mod pools to see if that is a something people resonate well with or not well with as well. So yeah, you can. Anyway, my point being, like, we're still discussing it and we're still kind of testing some stuff with the tablets, and Forbidden Rites will reveal some of that. But ultimately, personally, I'm pretty happy with where it sits overall.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to hear it's in discussion then. One thing I saw that was like maybe an easy win was to get bookmarks in for the in-game trade, because I think people use that for convenience when trying to trade this stuff, and being able to set those up and bookmark those would be pretty sweet.
Pretty sure that is a thing.
Oh.
So yeah, we have favorite trades and recent trades as two things that are internally, as of yesterday, implemented on PoE2.
Huge announcements.
Oh, hell yeah.
Awesome. I think it was on gamepad and or console, and now it's on keyboard mouse as of yesterday internally, and that we should be able to get that into 055.
Yes, excellent. Easy win. Good to hear. Well, I will let you folks go, and we've got a race to prepare for and to swap over to here in just a moment. Looking forward to casting out as the grand final of the qualifiers. It's going to be a spicy one for sure. So thanks very much for joining me, Mark and Jonathan, for the Q&A here once again, and best of luck with the rest of the
Thank you very much for hosting. It's always a pleasure to have you to ask the questions, and hopefully you guys enjoy the Duelist when you finally get to play it on December the 11th when the game comes out.
December 11th.
Look forward to seeing what you have in store for us at ExileCon as well. We'll see you then,
absolutely.
maybe.
Well, there's certainly a lot more stuff to announce. Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
See you later.
Damn. December. That was crazy. The drops. No drops. Drops broken, for fuck's sakes. Drops. 07 drops. Extend drops. Twitch died. Get some sleep, Jonathan. Twitch stole my drops. Nah, bro. Hey, crazy stuff, guys. Crazy stuff. Wait, is it GTA 6 that actually broke it? Wait, did GTA 6 actually break?
Outside your mama house, right?
Did GTA 6 actually break that shit? Dead ass. No fucking way. Wait, what? How? How did GTA 6 break thing? How did GTA 6 break? Is it like there's a million Grand Theft Auto people? Grand Theft Auto VI. Alright, is it off? Oh. It's not that crazy, right? It's not that great. Oh, whoa, it's okay. It's some this reaction. I mean, it's not like that crazy. Maybe because Twitch is dying. I wonder. That's crazy. As well, okay, you say Asmontada's there. What I'm saying is, like, it's not like there's like a 15 Spanish guy stream with 1 million people watching. How could it? I think it's just a coinkydink that it happened to die during the launch. I think it's a coinkydink. Because there's been, yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Can we not refer to Asmongold as Asmontad? That's not very nice. Okay, that's not very nice. GTA 6 peak view count, 1.8 million. That's not even that much, right? That's like Counter-Strike tournament type shit, isn't it? Isn't that just Counter-Strike tournament type shit? There's motherfuckers that got like, okay, whatever, dude. Hey, whatever, dude. YOLO. Hey, boys. Hey, that was crazy, bro. Insane announcements out the wazoo, bro. Huge gaming reacts. Huge gaming reacts. Yeah. I think that's it. Surely there's no more announcements and we just get to pop off in games tomorrow. Right? Surely. Dude, Twitch is dead. Twitch is dead. You can't even type in chat. Test. Oh, it's kind of coming back now. It's kind of coming back now, as she is. I couldn't type the whole time. I was trying to ban people and I couldn't fucking ban them, bro. It's pissing me off. Yeah, it's random. It's like the Path of Exile thing. Maybe it's Path of Exile that's crashing it, bro. Maybe it was Path of Exile crashing it. Straight up. Oh my god. The footage is on the bay, by the way. The footage is on the bay. I've already watched, bro. What are you talking about? I've already watched it. I already watched the GTA stuff live, bro. What are you talking about? The bay? Dude, you can't afford Netflix, bro? Actually, you know what? It's kind of fucked up, actually. Dude, I had to get my wife's account. I had to lease off my wife. But hey, gaming chat. Tomorrow. Look at that end screen. Let's go with that end screen, eh? That's nice. What do you guys think about that? How do you feel about that? I haven't got sound on it. Need to get some sound to it. That's not bad, eh? That's not bad. Look at that. Oh. Wait, what the fuck? You and me. Dude, I looked up You and Me and it didn't even come up with this fucking song. Hey, there it is, baby. There it is. There it is. Hey, popping off. Going rank 1 tomorrow. It's going to be fucking crazy. Yo, rip Twitch. Rip Twitch, man. Fix your fucking website, Twitch. Seriously, for real, dead ass. Project ZOMBOID. Destruction tomorrow, providing there's no huge game announcements. GTA deep dive. Yeah. I am working on a top secret mission, guys. Top secret mission. Okay. Oh, there's an Xbox showcase tomorrow. Hey, we play it by ear, boys. We play it by ear. Ciao, brothers. Peace and belief. Yo, this ending song is way too long, bro. What the fuck? Did I actually wait 5 minutes every time? But there's no way I waited 5 minutes every time, did I? Holy shit. Dude, this intro is way too hard, bro. I gotta